Okay, so before we start, I just want to address the minor elephant in the room that at the end of the Dreadnoughtus video I said the reviews were over, but that was before I had this. So, and this is technically not a figure review. This is the 2015 CollectA Tube of Minis #1, I think. And I mainly got it because of this guy. For a future project I need a small baryonyx, but as of course with the Mosasaurus I did think, oh, I should have gotten this a month ago and then I could have included it in Aotearoa, but that's fine. So I'm actually pretty happy with this. I had to go through the 2 or 3 different options I had on Animal Kingdoms of like, okay, out of all the tubes, which one am I going to use the most out of? And this was it. Until last week, I didn't actually have a use for the Mosasaurus, but now I do. I'm going to do this review a little bit differently in that, of course, there's 10 figures, so I'm going to address them kind of broadly and then go through them one by one. So, I must say, for such small figures, these are pretty darn good. Like, CollectA has always been good at small things, but these are amazing. The only quality control issue I can find is warping. Like, there's this wing on the Pteranodon, and the Diplodocus's neck is not meant to be like this, and it was like that when I got it out of the box. But it's been lying underneath some heavy things for about a week. Might require some hot water surgery. And then the Mosasaurus tail fluke is a bit warped, but it's actually okay because it's warped in the right direction. I did notice that, of course, all of these are based on 160 or 140 scale figures, but they have some key differences. So the T-Rex, Mosasaurus, Pachycephalosaurus, these are all in almost exactly the same pose as the figure they're based on, but they're facing the opposite way. I think the rest are just in the same pose. Okay, one by one. One more thing. I do notice that the detail goes up as the figure gets smaller. So, like, this is the biggest one, and it's got really only wrinkles, and then the Pachycephalosaurus has got ridiculous scale detail, but we'll get to that. So, I'm going to start with this guy, probably because I've got the least to say about it. I think it's really good. I'm amazed that they actually even bothered to put in the second row of teeth on the roof of the mouth. It's like, CollectA sculpted detail is astonishing, even at this scale. Obviously the colours are the same, but they've just simplified the patterns a bit. Although actually I think the patterns on the tail of the regular size one aren't white, they're kind of bluish grey. Yeah, it's in pretty much the same pose, only it's facing the opposite direction. So if you mirrored this, it would pretty much be a miniature version of their 140 scale Mosasaurus. Accuracy, of course, is 100% for what we know about these creatures. They haven't sculpted the nostrils in, but at this scale, who's going to blame them? Oh, actually no, I take it back, it's not 100%. I don't know why they do this, but CollectA emphasizes this hole in the skull behind the eye, and I don't know why. So because of that, I think this one's going to have to get a 4.9 because of that one little detail. What am I going to talk about next? The Pteranodon. This is the one I probably have the most problems with, because just like the original deluxe one, it's semi-transparent. So from the top, you can see all of the printed logo and words and stuff. It's on the underside of the wings. Hands are pronated. The feet are facing each other, which is not physically possible. And membrane's going to the tail. The head's okay, I suppose. It's obviously longiceps. Yeah, head's in the right position. This wing is somewhat angled forward, and this one's a bit more straight, and it should probably be more like this one. The body's kind of scrawny, and it doesn't have any pycnofibers sculpted onto it. And then, of course, the tip of the wing is supposed to be like that, but I guess the way they're stored means that some of them are going to warp. Yeah, so this one, I think, I mean, the colours are okay, but I think this one's probably only going to get a 3. Kentrosaurus. This was the only one well, of all the dinosaurs, this was the only one I couldn't actually think of a use for until recently, but I've now got a use for it. My biggest problem with this is that this part of the legal stuff is on the side of the animal. So from this side it looks okay, but from this side it's got a really obvious CE, whatever that is. Yeah, that plate is flat on top, and I don't think it should be, considering what its neighbour looks like. It's a problem with the Stegosaurus as well, but for some reason they've sculpted 3 toes on the feet, but they've got the correct 5 fingers on the hands. Yeah, the colours are alright. I mean, well, the 140 scale version has, no, 160 scale, sorry, has got a bit more lighter green. That's a bit more interesting. I think this one's going to get a 4.5. Diplodocus, this is the one that had the biggest error, I guess, when it arrived, because its neck was like this. But yeah, it might require some hot water surgery because it's still leaning over a bit. I don't like the pose. I don't know why CollectA does with this, with their Diplodocus, but it's always rearing. Although I did find it might work better on rough ground, but it can actually be like this. That there is supposed to be a curl in the tail, and it looks kind of uncomfortable in that position. This is the only one that might have a bit of an issue with the paint, because the eyes are huge, but maybe that's because the head's so small, so I could probably cut them some slack. Details, probably way too much, given that this animal is like 25 to 30 meters long, so you definitely wouldn't see scales like that. Feet are pretty good for this scale, and of course that hand is correct, but that one not quite. So yeah, the colours are good, the details okay. I don't like the pose. This one's probably going to get a 4.5. Pachycephalosaurus. Biggest problem I have with this is the length of the tail. If you look at the 160 scale one, the tail's coming out to about here. So yeah, that's a big problem. Add this with the T-Rex as well, in that I don't mind the base, because at this scale, if it's in vegetation or in dirt or anything, you're not going to see it. I do love how they've actually sculpted in the fact that it doesn't have cheeks, because even for, like, this is 2015, this figure, but I don't know when we figured that out, that Pachycephalosaurs probably didn't have cheeks. Head ornamentation is pretty good. The eyes are really well painted. They've even got gloss. Correct number of fingers. yeah, I think my main problem with this is the length of the tail. Oh, and there's a little bit of paint smearing on the toes from the colour of the base. So I think this one, 4.5 as well, I think. Baryonyx. This is obviously based on the old deluxe one, as you can see by the colours on the poster. The proportions are a bit off. Hands are pronated. It's got brow ridges plus brow horns and then a crest in the middle of its head. So that's weird. It shouldn't have any... Actually, I don't know whether or not Spinosaurus had brow ridges, but the crest should definitely be more prominent than that. But it doesn't matter because because I'm going to be using this as a baby anyway. Teeth are pretty good. Paint on the inside of the mouth is great. Yeah, I think there's a bit of paint smearing up onto the fingers from the claws. The feet are a tad large, and the proportions are off. This one's going to get a 4. Stegosaurus. This is based on the new deluxe one, as seen by the pose, and it's not blue, it's kind of green. Head's a bit weird, maybe that's the scale. Paint from the Thagomizer has leaked onto the tip of the tail, which is a bit of a shame. And these two plates make no sense. I have never seen Stegosaurus plates in this sort of shape. So this one, I think, is a tad warped. I don't know if it's supposed to be like that or not, because the tail is curving to the side. Yep, 3 toes, but 5 fingers. Although it seems to have a nail on every finger, which is not accurate. So, I think I'm going to give this a 3.5. The T-Rex, this is painted like the old deluxe T-Rex, but posed like the hunting T-Rex. They actually managed to sculpt in the individual fingers. It's not like that, they're actually separated. Paint from the teeth is leaking up onto the upper jaw, which is a bit of a shame, but other than that, the detail's alright. The 2 claws are in the right spot. I think the feet are the same colour as the base, so it doesn't really matter about paint smearing. And the feathers stop at the back of the head, which is good. And even for a figure this scale, it has binocular vision. I think with all those things, it's way too feathered. I think I'm going to give this one a 4.5 or 4.6, I reckon. The Parasaurolophus. This is my first ever quadrupedal Parasaurolophus figure, which feels kind of weird, but most of my parasaurs have been Chinosaurs until now. Well, actually until the baby safari one. The neck's way too skinny. There is not enough beak. I would say that the hands are wrong, but based on recent evidence, that might be right. Because I don't know the full logistics of it because I haven't had it explained to me properly, but I think Saurolophine hands wouldn't have had the Edmontosaurus hoof. Oh, no, Lambeosaurians, sorry. This is a Lambeosaurian. Saurolophines would have had the hoof. God, what am I saying today? Yeah, I think the only problem really is the neck, so I think this is going to get a 4.8. And lastly, we have the Triceratops, which is painted like the old CollectA 160 scale trike, but proportioned accurately, which is great. They're given it quills over the sacrum, which is kind of... I like how they go kind of minimalistic with that, but Psittacosaurus has them on the tail. Horns are straighter, which implies this is Porsus, which I guess is okay. Too many Triceratops toys are horrendous these days. This ring of armament shouldn't be there if this is an adult. I think the beak's too extensive towards the back. Also, they've kind of piled the nose horn on top of the nostril. Correct number of digits though, and the proportions are really good. So I think this is worthy of a 4.7, I think. So altogether, I think these are probably worth a 4.5, which ain't bad. The size comparisons got regular papodimetrodon. Like this is 140 scale, and I think these are 1/400 and 1/600 scale. CollectA Dead Stegosaurus, Safari Mini Velociraptor, and we've got some figures from the Safari Baby Dino Tube, which is something I want to mention because these here are the same amount of figures in each tube. These ones are slightly smaller, and the quality on these is so much better than, like, these are from 2007, the Dark Days of Safari, and these are from 2015. And yet this tube is $9 cheaper on Animal Kingdoms, which is where I get my figures from. So, like, this was $28. This was $28.50, and this was $19.50. These are overpriced for the quality. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's everything I have to say. I think the next figure-related thing is probably going to be an unboxing. I was going to do an unboxing of these, but I scrapped that idea. But the next thing I get, I'll probably do an unboxing of that. So, see you then.